Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CITE workshop. The name of the workshop today is very interesting. It's coding with generative artificial intelligence, creating creative educational apps using Bing Chat and GPT-4. Now, today's speaker, Dr. KAHN, is no stranger, to CITE or the Faculty of Education. He is from the University of Oxford, and he is indeed a pioneer in the areas of AI, as he received his PhD from MIT's AI Lab back in 1979. And he has explored the intersections of AI and education for over 5 decades now. Now, I'm sure you will all enjoy today's workshop. A lot of hands-on experience, collaborations among you all, and learn a lot from him. So now, without further ado, let's all welcome Dr. KAHN.
And thank you all for coming. Since this is a workshop, people should feel free to interrupt me, ask questions at any time. And hopefully a good number of you also heard the seminar I gave on a related topic back last month. All right, let's get started. Hopefully everybody's been given these slides, but here they are too, because the slides have all the links for the resources you're going to need for the workshop. So here's the plan for today. So I'm going to start with a demonstration of how you could use Bing Chat, a little explanation of what it is and why I'm suggesting that one. And then a program that I made called App Maker, but many alternatives exist like CodePen. And discuss the whole issue of prompting to get it to be more supportive of somebody who's trying to make, especially a young student, trying to make an app or a game, especially if it's got some pedagogic value. And then I'll give a sense of the huge scope of things that are possible, because in the last year I've made 24 very different examples of what can be done this way. So that's the first half. And then, and then after everybody gets a chance to build things, I think it's best to try to form small groups, 2 or 3 people. Then everybody will have a chance to talk about the experience. That'll be the first part, the bigger part. And then I'll be discussing some of the issues around prompt engineering, prompting. Actually, at any point you can ask questions, but set aside some time. And there'll be a chance for you to try to either come up with a prompt or edit one of the prompts that I'll be talking about. And then again, once you build a prompt, try it out, report it back as to how it works. So that's the plan. And one of the unfortunate things about geopolitics or whatever is that OpenAI has the very best, currently the best chatbots that, especially version 4, which I most often use. It's just, a good, clear step ahead of everybody else. But it costs $20 a month, and only could use it with a VPN here. I'll cover with some special arrangements maybe with OpenAI. So I think the second best is what Microsoft is offering. And the strange thing is the Microsoft offering actually relies on GPT-4, but they somehow don't use as good a version, or they I don't know what they've done, but it's clearly not as good as GPT-4, but I think it's still the best free option here. Or maybe the best free option period, but especially here in Hong Kong. And Google's had introduced Bard about a year ago, and it really wasn't very good, and I tried it for a lot of these things. But then last month, they made a major upgrade to the point where I think it's a little bit better than ChatGPT 3.5, the current free ChatGPT. And Google's saying that they've got even a better version coming soon, and so on. And then there's some other companies. Claude's probably one of the better ones that also has, tied for second best or something for these purpose. But again, that one isn't available here in Hong Kong. And even though ChatGPT 3.5, you need VPN or special arrangements, KAHN is one of these companies that offers a free connection to GPT 3.5 and even to 4 if you pay. And it's pretty good, but I think I'm going to mostly be promoting Microsoft's offer. And they're not really completely equivalent, but they're roughly the same. So here's the thing about Microsoft's Bing Chat, which they recently renamed to Copilot. And every PC has it pre-installed, and on a Mac, if you're using a Mac, you should follow those instructions to install it. If you don't want to do this for everything we're doing today, you can still just go to po.com if you don't want to install. And then once the funny thing that what Microsoft did is they're trying to push people to use their version of their web browser called Edge. And it's very, very similar to Chrome. But if you go to bing.com/chat in Chrome, you get a weak version of what they offer. But if you go to it in their browser, then you get the full featured version. And really, to get the full featured version, it's good to have a Microsoft free account that once you're logged in, it also means that you can see your previous things. And I played with the app on Android, and I assume the iOS version is very similar, and it works quite well. And one of the things that's interesting from the point of view of school children is that the default is very much speech oriented. You say things and it says things back. You could still, of course, type and read, but it's not as necessary. So that's what I'll be demoing it using this, but we'll everybody's free instead if they want to use Kodak. So I just finished a 5-week online course for children in India. They were aged 9 to 15, 7 of them, and I introduced them to what I'm going to introduce you guys to is how to use chatbots to make apps, and they all did very well, very impressive. As a matter of fact, I wrote a blog post about it yesterday. Should put a link about this so you can find it. But if you go to my LinkedIn page, you'll see what happened with these school children did. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because the biggest problem they had was they're perfectly good at copy and paste, even creating some files so necessary, but they weren't copying and pasting always in the right place. Sometimes the chatbot would say, "Oh, I'm sorry, that wasn't right. Here's a new version," and they didn't know to remove the old version and put in the new version in the right place. So because of this issue, I actually created this thing together with ChatGPT-4. I didn't write the code. And what it does is it tries to automate much of this so that you don't worry, if you're pasting in code, you don't worry whether it's HTML code or CSS code or JavaScript. They'll figure it out, figure out where to put it. And if it's a newer version of something, it knows what to remove. And it makes it very easy to then so I'll be using it when I demonstrate things. And there is a way to actually get it to support apps that include images and sounds, so that gets a little bit tricky. And some of the alternatives, I'll show you one in a minute, CodePen that's often used. It has certain limits. You can't get an app that takes up more than a megabyte without paying for the service. And the integration of sound and images is a little bit tricky. So, I've been exploring a lot of different prompts, and when it's your turn to try things, you can select which, whatever prompt you want. You just go to these Google Docs, copy and paste the prompt, and paste it into Bing Chat or Poe or whatever it is you want to use. And so the first two are very much trying to aim at young children, where it's sort of pushing the chatbot to sort of consider somebody's very young, not very knowledgeable, not can't deal with technical language on. And there's a version where it knows a bit about how to use the app maker appropriately, how to produce output that makes it easier. And then just if you want to yourself kind of customize it, saying maybe you don't want you want to, it's maybe for a biology class, so you want to have a special prompt that says, oh, the students will have to make or are making biology games and simulations that are of a certain sort. So you might want to take that and then add some additional instructions. And then I'll be showing you this one. I've been finding it's a fairly successful experiment, which is that you could get a chatbot to kind of change its language and try to be more simple and explanatory, but by asking the chatbot to kind of split its personality. So Ada is supposed to be the very technical, good programmer personality, and Curio is a character that just is always asking questions, wondering what's going on, kind of thinking, what do we need to do next, kinds of things. And by asking the chatbot to simulate the two, conversing whenever the learner enters something, you get well, you'll see in the demo, but I think you get an interaction that makes it clear what the chatbot's thinking, because you're seeing, two different sides of its thoughts, kind of discussing things. It just, I think, it also makes it a bit more personal. And then I have some down here that are really highly tuned to take advantage of some things that only ChatGPT-4 could do. So those are the kind of ones that I've explored. And just to give you a sense of the huge range of things you could do just by talking to a chatbot. These are 24 different programs that I've created without typing any line of code, just by having conversations. The important thing is that you're not programming in English or Chinese or something. You're programming by having this long conversation. Typical of these tend to be, several hours, a couple of them a day or more. And the important thing is that you're saying what you want to create, but then you're a little conversation about, well, where should we start with? We start really simple. And then once you got the simple thing working, you know, how can we keep improving and improving it until it gets to be what you want it to be? And part of the task too is these chatbots keep making mistakes. They might make an app that doesn't do what you want or is broken, and you have to be able to figure out how to tell it this isn't working. So we'll see all of this. But I wanted to give you a quick overview of the kinds of things you can do here. And what's impressive too is that it's possible the chatbot itself can pull in other AI capabilities, including as a few of these, you know, GPT can call in GPT to be appropriate in the app. But for that to work, you have to have an account and an API key. So there's 2 or 3 of these have that limitation. So the first one, you could speak to it and it will come back and repeat it in a funny voice, funny pitch, and it's got nice stuff. Another one that's loads in a model that's able to track all the parts of your hand, so that when your finger is up like this, you can see a video, but you could draw on it with your finger, and then if you say red, it'll change to a red pen, the blue. You can make an app that actually does machine learning itself. In this case, you've got some sentences that express lots of confidence or lack of confidence, and the app itself will create a machine learning model, and then you're able to give it new sentences, and you can see. So it's a nice example of learning about machine learning using the chatbot. You can set up conversations. You know, one I did was Aristotle and Galileo talking about things, and then the student could be the third participant and might bring up, well, how do objects fall? And Aristotle says, well, heavier ones go faster. Galileo says, no, I did all these experiments, and they go back and forth. So you get an interesting educational experience by setting up a conversation between not just famous people. Another example is what I did was you have a conversation between a lion and an elephant and the student. And, you could ask them questions like, how do you deal with really hot weather? And the lion says, well, I sleep during the day in the shade. And the elephant says, well, my ears, will radiate heat. How do you get salt? You could have a conversation and they both give very different answers because they're very different lifestyles. There's a lot of examples of where a student might just be interested in being, yes, it's great. Oh, there's an audio problem? Oh. Should I be louder? Does that help? Or is there something wrong with the microphone? I should use this instead. Should I turn this one? Or?
Hello.
It's a little tricky. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. All right, good, thanks. Is it better? Yeah. Okay, so a lot of students could be making games, which the games themselves maybe aren't pedagogic. The whole process of making any app, including games, in terms of design and communication skills and learning how to break problems down, and there's quite a lot of creativity and design in making a game this way. Another kind of app is one where you get it to generate stories, and you could criticize parts, and it could even do some self-criticism, and then it could generate illustrations and so on. And there's very simple things. You could just ask for an app that makes fireworks. Maybe I'll skip a few of these. One that's much more maybe at the high school and higher level is where you could do real data science, but the chatbot is very supportive. So the example here was, the question was, if you have the record of previous weather about temperature and humidity and so on, does that have, could you use any of that to predict whether the incidence of flus will be above average or below average for that time of year? And it helped find the data, clean it up, so I can build a machine learning model, get it trained. It really was very helpful for the whole process. Just to show off one of them, I'll just give you this calculator example. So it might look like it's a very simple calculator here. Add 2 and 2 and it's 4. But if I say I want 9 to the, I don't know, 10,000th power or something. And if I say calculate, it's too big to see, and if I click here, we could see that the number just goes on and on and on. We made a really big number here. And if I say I want to see it in English, oops, no, it didn't work. Sorry. Oh, I have to push calculate. So here's the same number in English. And I once showed something similar to this to a colleague, and she said, well, let's find out how long it would take to actually speak this. So what we did was in 60 seconds, we saw how much we could speak, and then worked out that it would take 3 weeks to say the whole numbers. I think there's some children that find such things, and they could do very fancy things with fractions, but I don't want to spend too much time. This is a really interesting game that you could generate. And then the next 2 are kind of interesting biology examples. The one where so I should have said from the start, if you look at the logs of the doc files, all of these, I made them, but I made them pretending in my head to be a student, sometimes high school, sometimes middle school or whatever. So of course, I can't perfectly role play a student, but I think I did a good enough job that it's kind of plausible that a student could have been the author of most of these. So the number 14 there, the example was where this student says, oh, I'm interested in simulating the ecosystem where there's kelp and there's sea urchins and there's sea otters. And the chatbot already knew that, what the relationship was, that the sea otters eat the sea urchins and the sea urchins eat the kelp. And made a little nice simulation, and then you could start asking, well, could we have reproduction as well? Could we have perhaps, could we have, just keep making it more a richer and richer little simulation of that ecosystem. And the next one's also a biology example where the student is interested in ants, and the first app is one where the ant is trying to find food, but also trying to avoid a predator. And the next one's more interesting, where when an ant finds some food on the way back, it leaves a pheromone trail, and then other ants from its nest could follow that trail to find the food as well. The balloon popping game is interesting because it's like an AR game. So you see yourself, you see these cartoon balloons coming down, and you could pop them with your finger like that. Then there's a few about games about making with riddles and jokes and some word games. And this exoplanet orbits might be I think that's the example that I'll demo in just a minute. Okay. So if you want to, maybe not necessarily right now, but I mean, now, why don't we spend 5 or 10 minutes where you try it out? So if you click on this, you'll see this is just the introduction, and when I click next, we'll see the first app, and if I click here,
368.
and then I click again.
971.
So it's trying to say this number, but with really high pitch and slow rate here.
363.
And I'm not sure if this will work because it requires the microphone, and sometimes Zoom pulls out a microphone. We could try it. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so it heard it and then it repeated it with a Russian accent or something. And if you even have a Google Translate key, you could get it to translate that into whatever language. So, and then when you click next, you'll see this one, and it even says it's better to run it in a tab. And so if I have my finger like this, oh, it's one of the things, many of these apps are kind of works in progress. Oops, oh, it's reloading. So it's very clear how one can keep improving. How this is working. So now when I move my finger, red, blue, green, I don't know. Oh, maybe the microphone isn't working. Oh, maybe this other app was listening to the microphone, maybe now. Red, green, well, you can imagine. And of course, you can make it look better than this. And it's only, if I move my fist around, nothing happens. It's only when it's my finger. So, why don't we spend maybe 10 minutes, everybody just try out this app just to get a sense of the range of things that you guys do. And if you pay attention to the bottom here, some of them will say instructions like, whatever. Sometimes they'll say, this requires an API key, so skip those, right? Unless, of course, you have an opening API key. Okay, so why don't we start again at 11:40. Oh, and if this helps a lot, this is the URL, you could also just type rather than that. And if there's any questions or problems, just let me know.
Is it on a PPT slide?
Oh, yeah. The link is, yeah.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Go back.
So this just where it says try it out.
Yeah.
Oh, go back to the, oh, sorry. Back to the, oops. Also, I think for the chat, I'll put it in the chat. Besides the apps, you might find it interesting to also look at the logs of how they were created, or the document I wrote about how they were created. I think most of these apps should work on phones and tablets as well, but also I think people that don't have a laptop with them, maybe if you could team up with somebody that does, things might go better. Oh, yeah.
For the app that about the story of the image generator, and then it's requires us to ignore
Over some. Oh. There we go. Wait, something.
About the story and image generator, it
Right.
requires us to enter the OpenAI API key.
Right.
So without entering that key, we cannot use this
Yeah, sorry, yeah, that's true for about,
because it's generated by GPT-4.
yeah, I mean, it could. Oh. Yeah, so, yeah, the particular, it does require, yeah, an OpenAI key. So, Yeah, so you can't use it. Let me show you which ones. So the illustrated story generator uses
Number 6.
yeah, uses the AI. So does the making connections game. Those might be the only ones that use the an API key. But but half of these do use different AI things, but those are free open source things that just get loaded into the browser as you need it. So
So how about number 6, the story generator?
yeah, no, that's the 4, 6, sorry, 4, 6, and 13, I guess, are the ones that require an API key. So
Okay, thank you.
right. Okay, so hopefully you got a sense of the range of things that could be done, and if you had a chance to look at the conversations, but you'll see an example of a conversation very soon. So actually it says that, but actually before you create your own, I was going to give a demo. So I had a page reminding me about the demo. It doesn't matter. I'll just do it right now. So so I'm going to go to Edge, and I could search for like Bing Chat or something. You know, this is bing.com.chat, and notice here that it knows who I am, and that they make it available even if you don't log in. But if you do log in, there's a lot of extra features. So the first thing you could notice is that you could choose between having it being kind of creative and original, or more everyday, or more precise. But even though programming is kind of a precise thing, I find that creative is the best choice. So the issue I'm facing right now is maybe I want to have my hands free, so I can't really hold this microphone. Oh, you can hold it, that'd be fine. Yeah, thanks. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'll go back and get an appropriate prompt. So here was the list of prompts, and I'll pick. Well, maybe I'll do this one, which is more focused on younger children. So I'll open this up, and we don't need the headline, so I'll just copy and paste the whole thing. We could later look at what's inside here. This is a really long one. And it might be possibly too long for Bing lets you have 4,000 characters. Wow, very close to 4,000 characters. So this is all working right. So this is, well, I'm going to continue, but I'm so used to using GPT-4 that listens to me better and follows instructions better. Because this is supposed to be putting in these new characters, but let's just continue. So say I want to say that I'm 7 years old. And the less smart chatbots are really fast, they respond right away. But the more capable ones take more time or something. So when I was a kid, I was Kenny, so I'll say. So maybe I'll say I like outer space. I think I did when I was 7 years old. So notice it knows about the app maker, because that was part of the prompt, and it's also, but I have to tell you that when you use ChatGPT-4, it's better at adapting to a 7-year-old. It'll give little analogies about what the world HTML and CSS are, and says, don't worry, you don't understand. It does a better job, but this is free and available. So, and also with, it would make this be a link, so I wouldn't need to say, open it up in another scanner or something. Anyway, so I have an idea. Okay, well, let's say I don't. So I'll say, oh, the other thing, of course, is I could do this. No idea. So that tries to hopefully get across the idea that you could be having younger children doing this.
That's
And-
okay, Kenny. Sometimes it takes a while to find a good idea. Let me ask you some questions to help you out. What do you like most about outer space? Is it the stars, the planets, the rockets, the aliens, or something else?
So I'll like planets. So hopefully soon we'll get to the point where it's starting to generate some code. So hopefully if I say all the planets. Okay, testing. Is this working okay? Yeah. Is it okay back there? Yeah, that's good. Okay. Good. So, I'll say, all the planets to look at. All the planets. So what's disappointing here, sorry for a demo. Again, I'm so used to using ChatGPT-4 that just is so much more capable, even though this is using.
That's a great idea, Kenny. You can make a web page that shows all the planets in our solar system and some facts about them. To do that, you need to use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is the language that defines the structure and content of your web page. CSS is the language that defines the style and appearance of your web page. JavaScript is the language that defines the behavior and interactivity of your web page. I will help you with the code that you need. You can copy and paste the code that I give you into the app maker. The app maker is a web app that you can find here, https://toontalk.github.io/re/apps/app%20 maker/index.html. The app maker has a button labeled paste code. It expects the clipboard to contain HTML,
Okay. So demos never go perfectly. So what happened, again, disappointing that Microsoft's not doing as well as OpenAI here, but at least it generated some code, so I can kind of show you a little bit about the process. So I just click, you need to be intelligent in order to click this copy icon. Then you go over here and you click the paste thing, and then when you click run, we see this is the beginning of it, but it just says a picture of Mercury is missing, a picture of Venus is missing. So if it, Mercury. So it has all these, planets. Well, we could say, well, just to give you a sense, I could say, show me. I don't think I could spell it right. Oh, it's very strange. So first off, it's definitely not talking like to a 7-year-old. It's like more of a high school level. These apps vary a lot, but I could, it's saying, I could go to NASA and find this picture, or I could go to Wikipedia or something. It's a bit confused because I actually look, oh, this one maybe is the planet. Okay, let's try this one. So if I copy the image here and I go, oh, I find this thing. Back here, I could say paste. Run the project. No. Whoa, no, so now we have one planet. This isn't going to work real. Why don't I try a completely different way to give you a sense of how to do all this, and hopefully either Bing Chat will behave better for you guys, or you can just try using Pro or something. So, what I'm going to do is, I had a little example where I used Pro, and give me an fancy version. So we're doing lots of stuff with it, and I need to find an example. Oh, let's see what this one is. All right, this is probably good enough for what we're doing. Okay, so let me show you the conversation. And this, for some reason, Poe is working better than the Microsoft version. So all I did was I said hello, and it says hello, introduces the two characters, Ada and Curio. And I say I want to make a web game where there's a fairy and a cute monster, and then it says great. And how would you want it to work? And I say the fairy comes to the monster, a riddle is shown, and the player gets a right to get a treasure. And they're very supportive. Oh, that sounds great. It sounds like fun. You have an idea, and then riddles, and I said, you make up the riddles. And it goes on like this, and then it generates code. So now if I click copy this, and I open the app maker, and I paste this code, and I say run project. There's no riddle, and if nothing happens. If I type something here, so just a very basic beginning. But if I so now, but it says here, it talks more about the game, and then talks about what's going on here. And then if I copy this and I say paste, and I say run project, now it just looks a lot nicer, but still doesn't do anything. And if I go here, you could be, to explain that, and then it says, okay, now let's actually have it do something. Here's the code, and it says it handles the logic, explains things. They're talking back and forth. So now if I go here and I say paste code and run the project, now it says I speak without a mouth and I hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wins. What am I? So, anybody know the answer to this riddle? Oh, I know this. This is a famous one. Yeah. And then we haven't actually added a picture of a shiny gem, but this is the, where the placeholder would be. So, and then the conversation could go on further. So what I'm suggesting now, given how badly that example worked, is you could continue to try. Maybe you can have better luck with Bing Chat and do it that way. But I think what definitely worked for everybody is with Poe, and I actually saved a here it is. What? Oh yeah. So so if you go to poe.com /ada underbar and underbar curio, then you could have the same experience that I was just demonstrating. So it's up to you. Choose between Bing Chat or this Poe that I've customized, so it already knows about Ada and Curio to give you a sense of how interacting with a chatbot that has some personalities involved might work. So I'll just show it again. So if I go to the tab and paste this in. If you're lazy, you can just click on this, so you can just say "I" to start off, and now you're kind of on. And then the idea being that whenever it produces some code, just click paste and run projects, over and over again. So, so this is the biggest part of the workshop, to get a sense of what it's like to actually create an app and try to imagine being a student doing this. So I think we should, we'll go to 12:15. My guess is people are going to have some problems or questions, so just raise your hand. You want the link to the, there's a few people here.
Yeah. Anyone can open the link for the poll.
Right.
Or the Bing Chat.
But also for people that still, the slides, gives you everything except now it actually should give you this, because it's I put it in here. If I put it, by the way, if I just put space, it becomes a link. So click on it. Good. So, as I said, Bing Chat or Poe, whichever you prefer. And if you're doing Bing Chat, come back to this page to pick a prompt, and just pretend you're a learner. And to get a good sense of how well it's doing, it's good to pick some subject you know about or care. And I think people work better often in groups of 2 or 3, but it's up to you. And then there's just this, if people have any thing they want to add to, maybe they made something or they want to share it, or whatever, just paste it in here. one thing I should point out too is that when you run the project, you get to see it right away. But if you click download, then you actually have a file that you can save and share with people, do whatever you want with. Maybe what I'll. This will be fun, but that's a way for you to save it. So again, if anybody is confused or has any problems, just raise your hand. And we'll start again in 15 minutes.
I'm just wondering, can you give us some suggestions? When we give the prompts, what kind of guidelines we should follow?
Yeah, this second half of the workshop is authoring your own prompts. So I thought for this one,
Okay.
if you use the POBot, I've already added the prompt. And if you're using any other thing, Bing Chat or if you have a Chat GPT, then I would pick one of these ones here, just copy and paste it.
And demonstrate well, but so that
Oh.
everybody can know.
Yeah, maybe while you're working, I'll
Yeah.
I'll run a little
Sure.
sample.
Wow, but
Okay. So, we, again, I don't know, I'll be demonstrating, but also you should be kind of playing along or try. So again, let's just try the same thing again. So, I like outer space. See how it reacts. So how about orbits? That's okay. So it'll create the different parts. And see, again, for a student, it says, here's where the JavaScript goes, and there's some JavaScript, and there's probably some CSS. So that's what the advantage of this app maker is. So I just click on copy, go here. I should still make sure I got a fresh one. Paste, and now we can see actually that didn't do anything, but that's because presumably I did the other half. So now I say paste code and run the project. And I could barely see it. Yellow. So I could tell it, all I see is that's an So now, this is again why this app maker is so nice, because I could just say, copy this, go here, say paste code, says you're doing new tricks, and now we can see some. I don't know, nothing happens when I click on it, but at least it's starting.
Yeah.
Something's starting.
it's getting better.
It's getting better. This is the sort of whole process. And saying,
I wonder if kids can post it.
oh yes, because the planets move. Oh, it has a microphone in the future too. And again, this is what makes it so hard for beginners is that it's expecting you to copy a little bit here, copy a little bit here, but again, if I say copy here, go back to here and say paste. By the way, one of the things that Windows does that's really nice, I can move this over here and move this over here, so then I don't even have to search back and forth. It's when I don't need this. So now if I copy this, like paste code, and I try this, now we see the planets are starting to move. And so then I can tell it, I'll just say it. The planets go off the edge. I don't see the planets all the time. Who knows what I did this? Oh, it didn't. I'll just type it. So you need to be critical and oh, we wanted to use the microphone. That's why it's say it loud. So it says copy this, and if I go close that and I paste the code and I say run project, doesn't seem to be any different. See, set the width higher and the height. Oh, it also did this. Let's see what happens. Close. Let's say paste code. Run project. Oh, there we go. Wow.
It looks nice now.
And I think the inner planets are going faster than the outer planets. Yeah, it's doing a pretty good job. And if I said, can we make it more scientifically realistic? It comes up with a lot of suggestions.
This field uses contains a lot of scientific knowledge.
Yeah, it has, it should know some of these things about planet sizes and stuff, so. So I can say, can you update the app to have the actual sizes and speeds of our solar system? And notice it puts, some comment. Yeah, so let's try this out. So I'll go back here, I say paste code, then I say run project. So the real planets move a lot slower than this. But this is Mercury and Venus of the Earth. But now we got this problem. They did this problem again with the size. So I could say, nice, but now the planets kind of go off the screen again. Let's see what happens. I'll copy this. Go back here. Paste the code. But it says if I click on one something, but I don't see what's happening. Anyways, this is the challenge, trying to get it to understand. Presumably, if I spend some more time talking to it, I could get it to go back to having a bigger one and moving it or something. And again, this is the frustrating thing about not being able to use GPT-4 because it makes a lot fewer of these kind of mistakes. But hopefully, you got a better sense of how to proceed. So we'll go for another 10 minutes, and you guys should try it. And it does look as if right now Poe is working better than me. So.
coding for the website.
Sorry.
Welcome coding for the website.
Yeah, so it's, oh, this co.com/beta.
You paste codes and then run project.
No, that, oh, so with Poe, so here's the thing, if you just go to Poe.com, you can paste in any prompt. And the prompts I had on are here. But if you go to Poe.com/Ada and Curio, I've already uploaded or started it with the prompt to make Ada and Curio talk to you.
I think she refers to the page you paste the code. The run project page.
Oh, you mean the app maker?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that's this link right here. Sorry. Sorry. The funny thing is, again, if you notice that at least when I use Bing, even though what happened? Go away. Oh, I see. Even though it didn't do a very good job, it did at least say, oh, and use app maker, here's the link. So that it would remind you about this, but it still wasn't working very well. So it's probably better to use this. Yeah, sure.
So if I'm a teacher and I design apps for my student, how can I share it with them?
Right. So the apps themselves, if you click on the download button and then you put it here, now so now this app is just a file, and here it is, or wasn't a very good one, but you could put it into any way to share it. Here's good app, the app here. Oh, right.
But it's
No, that's just the local
Yeah,
file.
it's-
So you'd have to somehow get the, well, okay, maybe there's many ways for us to get that file to them. Especially if there's a way to put it on some kind of
web.
a VLE and then they download it and put it. Because if any browser, if they just paste that in, they will see the project. What's kind of interesting is that they could also with this coding app, it's possible to start it off with an existing file. So if they have on their machine already that HTML file, and you say upload the file, and click on this, now it's loaded it in. And now if they did some further things here, I don't know, fix the size of the so maybe now so now if I say copy here and I go back here, paste the code and run, maybe that's bigger. Still didn't quite fit very well, but there was more I think it was trying to say. Oh yeah, here the CSS. So we'll go back. Oh, now it's it makes mistakes, but the point I was trying to make is that you could also continue a project another time if you downloaded the file and then you just upload it and continue adding new features to it. There's another whole way to share it, maybe, which is what we've done in other workshops is you use something like CodePen. And you need to sign up for it, but it's free. And you can sign up, Google or Facebook or something. So, and if I say I want to make a new pen, if I, let's see, if I go to, the downloads. The thing that I downloaded, if I say I want to open it with any kind of editor or notepad, then the whole thing is here. I could put it on the clipboard, come over here, paste it in here, and now it should be running. Yeah, it's running here, but also now I could now I could click save, and then if I click here, I can say full page, and now there's this URL that has both the app and the code for it. So if they want to see how it works, they click here. But if they just want to see it running here, and you can give it a name, and then you can just send people this URL. In fact, I'll put this in. Sorry. But this doesn't. Yeah, we don't need that anymore because now we've got the contents of that file here on CodePen. And I think it's automatically shared, or do I have to push the button to share? No. Oh, here, one way to, test if something is truly shared is you could go to the tiers, and this way it doesn't have any, doesn't know who I am, but if I click load it in, yeah, it's working fine. So just that URL is a way to share it. And I should explain that the alternative to this this app that I made is to use CodePen, where but requires a lot more sophistication for the user, because here when I say I want a new pen, first off they have to know, oh, if it's HTML, put it here, if it's CSS, put it here, if it's JavaScript, put it here. But the worst part is when it says, okay, here's a little bit more HTML, here's a little bit more CSS, where to put that and how to fit it all together. So it's trickier to use this. And the kids that I worked with in India, that was they mastered very well communicating to chatbot, having an idea of what they wanted to build, all sorts of good things. Matter of fact, should fine, because I just posted this yesterday. With my here, so and that's rolled up. Yeah. So I put this. You guys want to read my LinkedIn post about the experience of working with children from 9 to 15 remotely? You know, it's not using the equivalent of Zoom.
So we built the page for kids, you just a basic code.
What's you?
You built your, the app
Yeah, I built the app.
on GitHub for the children with base code. Like code.
Yeah,
Not
yes.
adding code.
Yeah, well, yeah, so the this app only expects JavaScript, CSS, or HTML.
And it will organize the code.
It'll organize the code, but it won't work, I don't think, very well if any of those things came from anything other than a pretty good chatbot, because the chatbots, you know, follow a good kind of practice. So I've tested it with a few different chatbots and it works pretty well. And it works, as we saw, pretty well with ChatGPT. But if you just took any random HTML or CSS, it could easily get confused as to how to do it. Because it's assuming that the code was, you know, the kind of style that chatbots generate. For example, it assumes that there's a space in every function definition. If you just stuck them right next to each other, it wouldn't be able to pull them apart and might make some mistakes. Yeah, if we look at the, yeah, I think if we took away the space here, it would get confused. But it's all the chatbots are neat about putting spaces between different pieces of the code. So I wanted to spend some time on prompting, so maybe we should move on. But what I want to hear first is if anybody actually created an app that they actually want to show anybody and talk about. Of course, we had such a short amount of time. Nobody's expecting it to be any better than that orbit thing that I made in 5 or 10 minutes.
Anyone want to share your project a little bit?
Does anybody want to at least talk about the experience? Some of the things that
Yeah,
work or
maybe
didn't
some
work, or what you
questions.
tried to do.
Still is that.
Yeah, I understand being shy because in 10 minutes, you probably can't create something you're very proud of, but that's not my point, is to get a flavor of what it's like. And I've created some pretty, very, I think, impressive apps in about 20 minutes, pretending to be a young child, but using ChatGPT-4, which is the frustrating thing about this is that the ChatGPT-4 is just a few notches smarter than these other ones, makes fewer mistakes, it's understood better, it follows the instructions better. So much of my success relies on that. But I should say, you know, what's costs $20 a month today, you know, will probably be ChatGPT-5 and later in the year, and then ChatGPT-4 will be free, and you know, so these things keep progressing, and you know, there's a lot of free ones now, and they're pretty good, but they'll keep getting better. It'll be even easier in a year from now to do this kind of thing with the school.
Recently, I've been practicing.
You move your mic.
Yeah, recently I've been practicing using GPT-4 to customize my own GPT, and it works quite well.
Yeah.
It helped me analyze my quantitative data. I built several different GPT models, and it is amazing after you train it a while using right prompts. But
Yes.
you need to try back and forth to make it better.
Right. Well, maybe that's the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is prompting. So I highly recommend this website, oneusefulthing.org. It's a University of Pennsylvania professor, actually business school, Wharton, and he's been focusing on generative AI for a while now, and he writes very insightful blog posts. He's just finished a book that'll be coming soon about this. He's made some online courses and stuff. So one of his blog posts was very much focused on prompting. And he says there's two very different styles of prompting. And it both has, you know, strengths and weaknesses. So the one that's talking about here, that this is a slide, image from his post, that it's good to get across these 5 different things to the chatbot. So you want to make it clear, you know, what the role the AI should have and what the goal of the whole thing is. So, you know, it's the role should be, you know, helping a child make a web app, and the role should be, you know, as a programmer or assistant, but whatever. The step-by-step is getting a lot more of the details of how it should work, what kind of pedagogy you want it to be doing. You know, do you want it to be much more Socratic and ask lots of questions, or do you want it to just, you know, check always with the student before proceeding? All sorts of different ideas there. And what kind of constraints and how do you want it to personalize, like I think by having those 2 characters talk to each other and talking to the student is interesting. And when you do write a prompt, they rarely work perfectly the first time. So you'll try it out and you'll find a few places where it doesn't quite get it right, or you have to repeat something or add some extra and test it again. But I found that in my experience with it, after about 3 iterations, I get a prompt that works pretty well. It still works pretty well for GPT-4. It failed just now for Bing Chat when I tried to demo that. So let me, before you try to write your own, let me show you the ones that I have. So, so this is the one that this. Oh, let's look at this one. I think it's shorter to talk about. Okay. So, yeah, so this is very much tied to using the app. So I say, so this every one I kind of try a little different experiments. So there's a story behind this one. I was communicating with a colleague who was also, you know, a former student of Seymour Papert, MIT, lab, and he said that when the logo programming language started becoming widely available in the 1980s, it got to the point where it was used in 1/3 of the schools in the US, a lot of other countries. It was very popular. But what was disappointing to the researchers was that in those days, software came in a box. You could buy it and had floppies and stuff. That the software was getting out there, but the philosophy that people like Seymour Papert with pedagogical concepts weren't coming along. But the idea of constructionism, that students can learn best by doing projects of their own, showing them and reflecting on the process of doing the project. All those kind of ideas kind of got lost, and people made this joke, you know, if only there was a way to put Seymour in a box too, so they got a box for programming language and a box for the. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe a chatbot could kind of crudely approximate Seymour Papert. So that's where I said, you know, I wanted this chatbot to kind of follow the way Seymour Papert emphasized the idea that powerful ideas can be acquired, the computational thinking ideas. And so I set up that context. And then I thought it was kind of nice to, the first thing is to introduce yourself and then ask the child their name and age so that it becomes a bit more personal and you can refer to them. Sometimes it'll name the app with the child's name. And find out too if they have any programming experience, because you'll interact with them differently if they don't know anything. And find out what they're interested in or hobbies, and always wait for an answer. And then see if they got an idea for a project. And if not, then trying to make some suggestions based on what they said their interests and hobbies were. This is the kind of instructions you're giving. So you're really kind of programming the chatbot, but in English, you're kind of saying what it is you want it to do. And then, you know, depending on the context, you might want them to if the child wants to learn more about the programming, then do that. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you just put a sentence here saying, you know, we're not trying to learn programming. We're trying to have them be creative and creating apps and learning something about the subject of the app, the science or whatever it is. So it's up to you, you know, what kind of thing to have there. You know, try to ask more questions than just expository. This is the style I was doing. And then, you know, what steps, you know, remind them of what you want to do, because they'll forget. So this one again is maybe a bit long for some of these chatbots, even though they could take this long, they tend to forget. And then I'm going to focus on some details about about exactly how to interact with them. So it goes on for some technical things here, because the app maker has this really nice feature that if the chatbot agrees that, and it did one experiment we was doing. So whenever it needs an image, it will just say, and instead of putting the image, it puts in a little placeholder and then a little description of it. And then the child could just drop into the app maker the image. I think I did that with Mercury. Drop an image of Mercury that I got from NASA and added it to that. It really broken. So so that's, you know, I think, how do I say that? Sometimes smaller prompts work well. There's a lot of times if you could just write 3 or 4 sentences and still get it going in an interesting direction, especially again with GPT-4. But when you really want to have a lot of, you've got a very clear idea of what kind of support you want to give the child, then you need a prompt like this. So what I suggest people try doing is either write a much simpler prompt and maybe give it to Bing Chat or to Code, and just have a little conversation and see how well it works. Or if you prefer, take one of these, copy and paste it to some files, and edit it in some interesting way and try a variant. And so why don't we do this for the next 15 minutes? It's be interesting to see if you get a different sense of how it'll affect. Another possibility is, I think I could make available the exact prompt that that the POBot is having, because I think I could click here and say I want to edit my bot, right? So by the way, here's how I made the bot. You know, I gave it a name and said what, but here's the text of it. So if I this one, I'll just find a place to put this. Yeah, maybe here. So this is a little bit shorter and simpler than what we did. This is the prompt. So you should be able to see that in slides. See, yeah, 3 paragraphs, so it's a bit simpler one. So maybe if you're going to edit one, it might be an easier one to edit. What even the Ali is supposed to be?
Doing his job, so I'm
Oh.
not like, so
Ah.
he can talk to me. I wonder if it's in the GPT builder. Okay, if I build my own GPT.
Right.
Builder, I can actually talk with GPT to generate this. for me,
Yes, yes.
right? I think that's a good feature.
Yeah.
Like, you can like GPT builder can summarize what I want and to create the prompt, the system prompt to the model.
Right.
That's a good feature.
Yeah, what Ming was saying for people that didn't hear all that is that, again, if you have an OpenAI account, the pro account, $20 a month.
Yeah.
And you have a way to get it in Hong Kong. It has this wonderful feature, which is when you create an equivalent of a bot like this,
Maybe you can show your.
yeah, maybe while people are working on, I'll get set up to show it,
Yeah.
but, what I was gonna show you first was, a reminder. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the simplest way to make a bot is this, where you just fill in these sort of few areas or something. You know, like a reading message, but what, I'm gonna, start my VPN so I could actually show you what it's like to create a customized GPT-4 using GPT-4. So I have to pretend I'm in on screen. So I've created a few customized GPTs here, trying to Curio one. Somebody else, I tried to make one that was supposed to help somebody like a child learning Chinese, an English speaking. So make your own. No, that's make your own. Yeah. So I think okay, so I guess I have to explore them.
Yeah.
So there's right. So there's a huge number that have already been made. And again, if you have access to the pro version, the one that I thought was really quite good was one that the Khan Academy made on Ego Life, because they have a very fancy version of built on top of GPT-4, but it's got lots of extra features and abilities as a tutor. But they made the light version available. But here, let's click on create. And if I give it a name, so I'm going to say that it's a different kind of example. Well, let's stick with the you know, web app. And then a short description helps. Maybe that's not. So if I click create, is that where it'll?
Yeah.
Yeah, now if I click create, we'll have a conversation about, well, how do you want to make this customized app? Maybe I didn't.
You can message it.
Hmm?
Message.
Oh, message it right now. It says let's continue. Oh, yeah, but it's confusing. That's all we don't thought. Okay. But I thought usually it starts asking me questions.
Yeah, for the first time, but we built several GPT before. If you are first time.
Oh, first time it'll be, it does it.
It will ask you what you want.
Okay, I one. So then it should be start to be helpful. So, guiding users through the process of conceptualizing and designing simple and so it's already kind of come up with a lot of these ideas on its own. Now let's refine its role. Should it be any type of web? So we'll say pedagogy. Or school. Yeah. Avoid. So you don't have to use full sentences.
Yeah.
They'll figure all this out.
Yeah, it is great because it will understand and explain and, elaborate what you want.
Yeah.
You can just choose from the builder's response and
Right.
see what you want.
So what's it say? Got to avoid jargon and make accessible language. We'll focus on empowering the student with projects, creativity, and innovation. While nurturing them, conceptualizing and planning without the barriers of technical. Now let's talk about guidelines. Should be proactive by frequently offering suggestions. Let's say proactive. Yeah, ask. Ask. We'll figure these things out. It's gonna be. Yeah. Maybe. So now it's had enough of a conversation with us that it's actually generating this customized version of GPT. And
If you go back to configure it,
yeah,
it will show you
go back
the
to
system,
configure.
the instruction.
Oh, she usually fills it in, or maybe
Yeah.
it's still working.
Okay.
Normally after all that conversation.
Yeah, we go back to create. I think
Oh, it's not.
it takes time.
Oh. Right,
Yeah.
So there was some kind of issue
Yeah,
updating. it.
GPT-4 is slow, but it is effective, but it's slow.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, what if I want to use it to, what can I do if I want to train, this GPT maker? For example, I can upload some of the, past student work from,
Oh, yes,
the teacher's
yes,
perspective.
yes.
So will I be able to upload a file?
Yeah, of course. If we go back to the configure, it generates.
Now it'll figure, yeah. So if you go to the configure,
There's a
it
knowledge.
generated all of these instructions that go on.
Yeah.
But, you know, and it had some suggestions about starting, but it also says you could add knowledge to it. So you could upload files to it that it will take into account when dealing with.
Yeah, and also I think Paul also have the knowledge base. If
Yeah,
you go back
that's,
to
yes, right.
the Paul page, there is also a place you can upload your files for the table to have the database to, yeah,
Right,
go back.
I'll go back.
Yeah, here, and knowledge.
Oh, yeah, yes, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
This- oh,
Just upload the
Yeah.
files you want the board to have.
To take into account.
Yeah.
So the potential is really good. So now that we have a brand new ChatGPT, maybe we should
Yeah, we can have.
we can leave the default size. Notice it made a cute little icon for it and stuff. And we could remove any of these and create different initial ones, but so if I I want to save it. And I could save it for everyone in the world, so anybody in the world might find it out of the millions of these apps.
We can sell it later after the store has been
So,
established, yeah.
so now we could test it. I'll just start by saying hi. Let's say. So I keep picking this example just so you can compare the different tools. Obviously, I gave you examples before, you know, coming biology or language or other. So, I could just save one here, but I like one. Now, we could even go back and edit it. We don't really like it to be just verbose. We could keep things simpler, more conversational than just give long speeches like this. And, you know, I'm sure if we continue with it, but I want to actually show you, I did something like this a week or two ago. So let me show it to you. Because I thought it was pretty impressive what it ended up generating. So I pretended to be a student that was interested in exoplanets, and it says, oh, is there a particular system you're interested in? I said TRAPPIST-1. And then, I mean, again, if you go back here and you click on doc, you hear the whole story about how I created this and what the issues were, but at one point we wanted to get the right sizes and distances from the star, and it said it didn't know, but it said go to NASA and find it, search. It told me how to search NASA to find it, and then but I at the NASA site I only found an image that had the picture of artist's idea of the solar system, and then it had all the data underneath it. And I said, here's an image I found, and it just read the data off the image. It was, and you could also, you click on one of them, and you learn about that planet. So it says, you know, its orbital period is 9.21 days, its distance is 4% of the Earth to the sun, you know. And it's a little tiny bigger than the Earth. Anyway, pretty interesting. And it's 3D, so you know, and it's the sun is actually lighting up these planets. So you can really get a pretty interesting thing. This one I was very much pretending to be a pretty typical I mean, high school level kind of student that kind of would know enough to be able to create something. So again, hopefully people are getting a sense of what it's like to interact with these chatbots, what it's like to create a prompt, what it's like to maybe create a customized prompt. But given that we're getting to the end, first off, anybody have anything to say about the whole prompt process? If the questions or if they tried it and got anything interesting happen? Oh, good.
Thank you for sharing. I wonder, do you think we still need to learn some coding on program?
Right.
Great development.
Yes, that's a great question about whether a teacher needs to understand the programming. And you could go very, very far and support students in a very great extent without knowing any HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. If you do know, you know, in some tricky situations or some problems, it can be helpful, but generally, GPT-4 knows so much more about programming than even a teacher with some good programming experience. That when there's a problem, you can just talk to ChatGPT about it rather than anything technical details. You could say, you know, you need and sometimes you tell ChatGPT-4 that it's just not working. How could I help? And it says, oh, well, here, I'll show you what it tells you to do. It's really pretty simple. It says, okay, right click. Oh, by the way, it managed to generate this too. They wrote this. So if I right click, and it says click on inspect, and then click on console. If there's any error message here, copy and paste it to me, and the ChatGPT will know what's wrong and be able to fix it. So it tells you, you know, that little bit of technical knowledge, but you still don't need to know the programming language. And if you want students to also learn programming, ChatGPT can be a great tutor for that because it gives you lots of feedback, and you can make the tutor, you know, either do it more by asking questions, leading the student to what's wrong versus just giving them constructive feedback directly. I mean, whatever style you want to help them with their programming. So, and one thing that was very nice when I tried simulating a student trying to learn programming, was that if you ask about how do I do something, it'll use the example that you're in the middle of. So if it's orbits or something, it'll generate some sample code that has something to do with what you're doing. The other thing which I should have said before too is that, well, you can ask these chatbots, oh, explain what this code does in plain English or something. It will give a more, detailed explanation. So that you don't need to have the programming experience.
Yeah, I think it depends on your own goal. If you want students to learn coding,
Right.
of course, you need to know how to code, right?
Yes.
And what Dr. Ken just response is we can use with these tools like GPT-4 is very powerful in terms of debugging your codes, and you can just generate something from maybe at the beginning it's not a perfect thing,
Right.
and you can iterate with within amount of time. But if you are a totally beginner for programming, it's very hard to build something from zero. That these two can have a step to start with, and I think it's a good thing to go. And for kids, like if the focus is science class, you want to they to learn how the planets go around.
Mhm.
You just using the tool to simulate it. So the focus should be on the science knowledge instead of coding.
Right. Different.
Because our class time is limited, right?
Right,
Within 45 minutes, you need to let students to demonstrate what they have learned in science. So this is just a tools to demonstrate it. So the students don't need to go deeper into coding. But if they are in the CS class, ICT class, they may need to go further. But it's still a good place to start, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things I think about a lot, and not worry exactly, but now that there's such powerful tools to help you create apps that somebody who is learning programming computer science course, might start thinking, well, if I try to create an app myself, that'll a lot of effort, it won't be anywhere near as impressive or as capable as these apps that I could get just by having a conversation with a chatbot. Why am I spending all this time learning programming when I could be creating, wonderful apps by just having a conversation? So that I'm sure there'll be some students that always want to go under the hood and understand the technical details. How in the world does this work? But I suspect it'll be a much smaller number than today that want to programming, because programming empowers people, children, but this empowers them even more.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Actually, we can go deeper in research in city area because people have this debate. And recently, I've been interviewing Hong Kong secondary teachers, IT teachers. When I say what's your opinions about these generative AI tools and what's the meaning for your student to learn programming, they think that it is critical to let students to learn programming Python, because like the government want them to teach students to learn how to code. And if they just learn without coding, they think they didn't teach them the most important thing. But actually, from the original idea from Simon Carpet, it's the whole point is we're using these tools to practice other subjects.
Right.
It's different focus. Yeah, maybe we can
Yeah,
this later.
Before ChatGPT came out, I think I was very pro encouraging as many children as possible in programming. It's good that many governments were saying children should be learning programming and so on. But the way that things are changing and the way it's likely to keep changing. I mean, there's still some value to understanding the major computational concepts of, you know, data structures and processes and, you know, loops and, you know, there's some value, of course, there, but it's not clear that you need to spend a lot of effort learning the syntax of a programming language.
Yeah.
There's a very good research. If you're interested in computational thinking area, there's a comparison study between Simon Parkett and Janet Wing's point of view about what is computational thinking. So Simon Parkett is more about Dr. Ken's idea is about practicing and let students to have the opportunity to practice what their idea in using these tools. But in terms of Janet Wing, she thinks it's more about computer science because she is from computer science area.
Right.
So she's more after like 2006, like computational thinking area is more tend to be like we should let everyone learn how to code what is computer science, and you need to learn how to programming by yourself, and then understand what is algorithm and all these things. That is computational thinking. So these are two different like debates in this area. So if you're interested, you can go further for looking at that paper. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's time. So everybody, thanks for coming. And I think there's still a plan for 2 more events before I leave at the end of February. One of which is a seminar in which I talk about all the other creative uses that you could, students, pedagogically valuable creative uses of chatbots that don't involve creating apps. So they might be creating stories that illustrate some mathematical or scientific idea, or might be making having text-based historical adventures and criticizing. It might be about, you know, having chatbot generate debates and kind of look into that. There's a lot more creative things that generative AI can be used for, that also has a lot of pedagogic value. So I think there's a plan for me to give that seminar before I leave in February, and then if there's time, there might be a workshop following that seminar.
Yes, if you have any feedback, you can just scan this code and we will see what you want for the next workshop, maybe in the February, right?
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
yeah, thanks everybody.